It is said that matter and energy are never lost. Rather, they are transformed, reinfusing further realms of the universe. And in just this way, the life energy of those who once touched the instruments we play here today touch us as well. Their essential energy reemerges through the wood, through the varnish, the strings, the resonance, and the tones. And their souls are bound up with ours through the stories and through the timelessness of music. Welcome to Violins of Hope. I'd like to introduce the Rabbi of Beth Tikvah congregation, Rabbi Taryn Tackman.
Welcome to Beth Tikvah congregation. Beth Tikvah means house of hope, and it is fitting that Violins of Hope is being held here in this house of hope. The beautiful instruments which we look forward to hearing symbolize hope. When we hear them, we remember those who perished in the Holocaust and those who survived. The music calls us to celebrate that which is good in the world And at the same time, the music urges us to bring more harmony and joy into our world. As we look forward to taking in the sweet sounds of the musical instruments rescued and restored from the Holocaust, I want to acknowledge and bring to your attention the beautiful Czech Torah scroll, which is displayed on the stand to my right. This Torah, like the Violins of Hope, has been preserved and kept in sacred trust. Our Czech Torah is one of more than 1,500 Sifrei Torah looted by the Nazis and later rescued. With Rabbi Emeritus Hillel Gamron's vision and a gift from the Susan Lynn Krupp Fund, 4 BTC members, Alice and Elliot Rosenberg, and Ethel and Harold Blackman, traveled to London to claim and bring this scroll to its new home at Beth Tikvah congregation. Like the Violins, this Torah is both a memorial to Jewish tragedy and a symbol of hope for the continuity of Jewish existence and for future harmony and peace. Thank you to all who were involved in bringing this special and important program to Beth Tikvah. This program is sponsored in partnership by Beth Tikvah Congregation and the JCC of Chicago, and it is made possible through the generosity of our Beth Tikvah member, Bonnie Vozar. Thank you. As you will see, as listed on the Violin of Hope program, there were many people involved in the program we are about to see. We are grateful for their efforts, and please refer to your Violins of Hope program for a complete listing of everyone who is part of this program. I also would like to say a special welcome to Eileen Ullman, Director of Community Engagement of JCC Chicago, who's here today. May Violins of Hope and the hope we bring to others help bring forth peace and harmony, renewal, and restoration to our world. At this time, I would like to welcome Denise Bleichman, Violins of Hope docent, to formally introduce this program. Denise is a retired teacher, a docent at the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center, and she holds a board post with Hadassah Midwest.
Well, I am so glad to be here on this beautiful day and look out in the audience and see so many of you that have come to hear the stories of the Violins of Hope. I can only talk about a few, but there are many violins here, and most of them have a story, and some do not have a story, but they were survivors that did not come to be able to bring their stories. I have a lot of connections here today. I had a cousin who was bar mitzvahed here, a baby naming and then a few years ago, the Prozansky's anniversary celebration. And then I come to know Mr. Gutman, who is going to be playing one of his pieces that I just learned today. But I am here today representing a partnership, as they said, from the JCC and the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center. We have a private collection of more than 70 stringed instruments that were played by Jewish musicians in concentration camps and have been lovingly restored over the past 2 decades with mastered violinist Einan Weinstein and his son Avshi Shalom. But first, some history about the JCC. You hear the word JCC, and what do you think? You think camps, you think special programs, you think help in any way they can to help the Jewish community. It was founded in 1903 and rooted in many values with a focus of helping the little kids with preschool, camp, and building connections with its community. And as they say, from generation to generation, la door of a door, bringing the violins of hope to communities around the state of Illinois reinforces the agency's role in fighting anti-Semitism and leaving a world a better place for generations. So, I'm here today to talk about the Weinstein family and how it got rooted as the Violins of Hope. It's a 3-generation family. Moshe and Golda, who immigrated here from Poland as Zionists in the early 1900s. They had a son, Einan, and during the holidays, who was at the table? Ghost. Most of their family had perished during the Holocaust. And as Einan grew up, he learned how to play the violin, but more important, he learned how to restore the violins. His father sent him to Italy, to France, to learn how to become a luthier, a repair and restore man who finishes the violins. Since the end of World War II, a project started by Einan and Moshe in order to restore and to bring these violins. They opened up a shop in Tel Aviv. Many of them, they got a name that they had this shop, and many people began through word of mouth, survivors bringing their violins to their shop. These survivors who did not, after World War II, and they were brought to Israel, did not want to have anything that was made from Germany. So that's how they started bringing their violins to their shop. Moshe came, and I'm going to backtrack a little. Moshe came to Palestine with his violin, making music, but more important, learned how to repair and store them. In the early 1900s, a man by the name of Mr. Huberman founded the Palestine Orchestra, 1938. Well, that year rings a bell. That was the time when the German people wanted to get out of Germany. He went to Europe, he auditioned them, and he approximately saved over 1,000 musicians and their families, bringing them to Israel. How was this supported? By a man by the name of Albert Einstein. He supported them, he raised money in order to bring them to Israel. Following the war in Palestine, when Israel became a state, it was later known as the Israeli Philharmonic. So, Moshe, having lost, I said, most of his family, it was a personal goal of his to be able to take these violins, even though some of them were donated, some of them he bought, into his shop. Years later, his son, Ashi, working in Tel Aviv, was invited to give a speech in Dresden. After that, they started advertising on radio, newsprint, and more people began to know of the Weinsteins and bringing their violins to them. Some of the violins have a story, but there are some that don't. I want to tell you one other thing. The latest violin was sent to Chicago this month from New York, A Connection. Its owner came from Germany to the United States in the 30s and became a naturalized citizen, joining a special unit. You may have heard about them, the Ritchie Boys. They were trained because during the war because they were native German speakers. They came with a violin in disrepair, but it will eventually be sent to the workshop in Tel Aviv and be restored. And then it is going on exhibition. All instruments have a common denominator. They are symbols of hope and a way to say, remember me, remember us, life is good, celebrate it for those who have perished. Violin makers Einam and Ashi, father and son, who work in Tel Aviv, and Ashi in Istanbul, have acquired this collection that Chicago and all over the state are have the opportunity of coming and hearing about the stories and the beautiful music that it plays. The sounds of the violin is often compared to the beauty of a human voice. When played with talent and spirit, it touches our heart. There was a role of the violins in the war. The violins helped keep the survivors alive by playing at concerts for the Nazis, playing before the gas chambers. So we bring the dark side of history to a light side where we can enjoy the music that the violins provide for us. Okay.
Thank you, Denise. Denise will be teaching us a little bit more as we continue on in the afternoon. I want to introduce you to Dean Gutman, who is a young person who we've just met so delightfully, and whose personal enthusiasm and commitment to the Violins of Hope project brought him to our community today. As I understand it, he read about it and he said, Mom, I really want to get involved with this. So he's here with his mom, Jenna, today as well, who brought him. And we made the shidduch, and here we are. So Dean will play the restored violin later in the program. But first, please welcome Dean Gutman and this beautiful saraband on his own violin for now by Johann Sebastian Bach.
This viola has a story. It was made by a man and maybe repaired by a man by the name of Carl Zach. It was made in 1896. So Carl Zach was the son of Thomas Zach, and in Vienna he attended from 1872 through 74 the Conservatory of Music for violin making. Carl Zach had the title of being a supplier for the royals in Vienna. And he commercialized these violins. Due to this foundation, together with his expensive way of living, Carl lost his complete property following the year 1898. But his violins remained. And this particular violin was brought to Moshe after the war and said, I want to donate this to you. But we know about the violin, but we do not know the stranger who brought it to him. So it was bought and played in the Palestine Orchestra, and now we are going to hear it this afternoon. Yes.
Right, thank you so much. So we understand that the cello is also part of the same group of instruments that Carl Zach somehow, through this stranger that we don't know much about, brought to the Palestine Orchestra, and then it was restored and put into the Weinstein collection. By the way, I'm Cantora Leader Ilana Axel, just so that some of you may not know who I am. And I would like to proudly say that all of the members of our string quartet here and our pianists are all members of Beth Tikvah Orchestra. You can read, and we'll talk about them later. You can read about them in the program. So we're moving on to some George Gershwin. And most of us know George Gershwin from Rhapsody in Blue, da 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 da. If you've ever been on a United Airlines, then you've probably heard that melody. And some of us know him from Summertime, Porgy and Bess. So you can imagine that today his legacy is a little bit complicated because now we better understand the conflicts of cultural misrepresentation and things like that. We can talk about more of that in the reception, but we cannot deny that Gershwin's genius in fusing together a diversity of genres helped catapult jazz and other popular forms of music onto what was a white classical concert stage. And in contrast, this period that this was happening took place as the full force of racism and anti-Semitism were sweeping Germany, certainly parts of Europe, and even here in the United States. And so it is the most striking counterpoint to hear this music played today on our restored instruments of the same period. George Gershwin. Matthew Halloran, Amy Novick. Matthew's also one of our key arrangers of the music today. And Karen Reshkin and Edna Gerstein, our string quartet. Thank you so much. But wait, there's more, because Beth Tikvah also has wonderful choirs. And so as I invite members of Kol Tikvah to come to the bima, those who are about to sing our lullaby, we'd like to turn our attention for a moment to the Nazi attempt to eradicate the Jews and their rich, diverse culture, our culture. And while this ultimately failed, much was lost. Yet so much more has endured for us to guard and pass into future generations. One of the best known and well-loved Yiddish lullabies of all time is Rozinkes mit Mandeln, Almonds and Raisins. And it was written in 1880. While a baby boy is being rescued or rocked to sleep, the lyrics explain, as you can see in your programs, the metaphorical little goat that stands under his cradle goes to market and returns with raisins and almonds. And this would be the fate of the child as well, to be a trader in the market, etc. And this is also a symbol of the Jewish people throughout all time. The goat, Chad Gadya, for example, is part of that symbolism. And then several ghetto writers then used Goldfaden, Abraham Goldenfaden, who wrote the melody, as the basis for new songs to express their nostalgia and perhaps their fears during the time of the Holocaust. In Israel, this lullaby is very popularly sung in this arrangement for choir by Gil Aldema.
Sitzt die Almohde
I'd like to invite Jeff Bacall, who, when he heard this song, told me a lovely story about his father's Yiddish, to recite it to us as the rest of our choir members join us here on the bima and quietly form 2 lines instead of 1.
So as we prepared for this song, I mentioned to Alana that my grandparents were first-generation immigrants, and my father spoke Yiddish as a child as the main language in the home. And he told me that when he went to grade school and he heard the Irving Berlin song, God Bless America, he was sort of shocked because he didn't know that it had English words, that he had always sung that song in Yiddish at home with his family.
So this beautiful violin does have a story. It was owned by a man by the name of Dr. Leon Schwartzberg Sawicki. He was born in a small, maybe a shtetl, which was back in the day, Kolonja. And he graduated from Lvov Conservatory in 1938. He studied medicine at the university and he graduated in 1941. So what happened to him? Married a fellow student, Ella Shorenzel, who also studied medicine. So what happened? He was one of the few that was able to hide his identity by becoming a Dr. Sawicki. But he took his violin that he loved so very much, and he played it all over Poland during the war. He played it on street corners, he played it in restaurants, he played it in impromptu bands, while Ella tutored Polish children. So yes, they did survive, and they were liberated by the Soviets in 1944. And he came to America. And he was well known. He was by a personal invitation by a man by the name of Dr. Albert Sabin. You remember who he is, right? The developer of the polio vaccine. And he invited him to speak at the Children's Research Foundation in Cincinnati. They both lived very long lives. And that is the story of this violin, and he donated it to the Weinsteins, and this is why we have it today. It is in their personal collection.
So as you can see, Dean has now taken this particular violin, the first time you'll be hearing it today, to join our choirs, Kol Tikvah, and our youth choir as well, Kol Shira, Schindler's List.
of the city at bells of evening chime. The chauffeur sounded from the temple to call the world to prayer. The shepherd pauses in the valley and peace is everywhere. Yerushalayim shel zahav v'shel nechoshet v'shel or alo lechol shirayim ani kibor. Yerushalayim shel zahav v'shel nechoshet v'shel or alo lechol shirayim ani kibor. Amir ha'aretz hamutayari v'rei ha'goranim נישא ברוח המים עם כל ההמונים ותרגם מטילן בערב שרויה בחלומה העיר אשר בדד יושבת ובליבה חומה. Yerushalayim shel zahav v'shel nechoshet v'shel or alo lechol shirayim ani kibor. Yerushalayim shel zahav v'shel nechoshet v'shel or alo lechol shirayim
touched my heart, and Sherry on the piano, our wonderful soloist Jeff and Patty, and our wonderful youth, Helen, Rebecca, Hadassah, and Della. Thank you very much. I invite the choirs to be seated for just a moment, but they'll be back to finish our program.
and Denise. We'd love to hear a little bit more about your own personal engagement with the Violins of Hope program. Thank you so much, as soon as everybody off the beat.
That was just beautiful. And as I was listening to this music, I think about the resilience of all those survivors who took their violins when the Nazis came knocking on the door and said, just take the most important possessions. Many of them were able to take them to the camps, and that's how they survived. Well, I guess I don't need any notes to talk about myself, right? I actually started my career not far from here, teaching in Palatine, 1st and 2nd grade. Then I had my family and I stopped for a while, and then I went back and I got my master's in special education at Northeastern. And I took a job in Chicago for over 20 years. I retired, and I guess a segue for retiring would be continue to work with young people. And I was fortunate enough to be chosen as a docent at the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center. My husband's family were survivors, so it also was very meaningful for me. So over the last 11 years, prior to the pandemic, I took students, I took adult groups through the museum, the permanent exhibit, telling the story of the Holocaust. And telling the story of the Holocaust. So when the opportunity came through an email that the JCC was partnering a partnership with the museum, I replied, and I was able to get this position, and I'm so happy to volunteer and take the stories to many different venues. And as I tell the story of the survivors, many of them have passed on, and their stories are lived on through the walls of the museum, through holograms, all kinds of ways to let people know, yes, we have survived as a people. And I thank Avshi Weinstein and his family for putting this exhibit together, not only here, but all over the world, and letting all kinds of public venues, libraries, Christian schools, anywhere where he could tell the story of our survival and those violins that tell the story. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise, for being here with us today. So we are, as the rabbi told us, Beth Tikvah, the House of Hope. And with Hope, we're not just focusing on music from the Holocaust, but rather with Hope as our beacon and vitality as our torch. We continue to enhance Jewish life in all its richness. In every season here at Beth Tikvah, we create music for so many, many events and worship events and everything else. And so we'd like to talk a little bit about, well, I'll just leave this to you. The singer-songwriter Julie Silver always says that it is never too early to talk about Hanukkah. I just wanted to share this wonderful arrangement by Matthew Halloran with you today.
I have the best job in the world. I get to work with these people all the time. It's so wonderful. Oh my God. I would like to, that was so beautiful. I would like to add that it's always a good time to have a hora, right? Yes, yes. So I'd like to invite Dean and Sherry, our wonderful pianist, and Dean Gutman back up to give us the Israeli Concertino by George Perlman, which, as they're getting ready, I just discovered this week that the composer of this next piece was a teacher of our first violinist here, Edna Gerstein, and you can ask her about that back at the reception afterwards.
fortunate. I think we can wish Dean a happy birthday, right? Was it a week or two ago? You turned 15, is that right? Yeah, very good. We have so many talented young people here today. Before we conclude our program, we do have time for a few minutes. If anybody has any questions for myself, or Denise, for any of the musicians, or we also have, we're graced here with the presence of Eileen Ullman, who's the director of this entire program for the Chicago and Illinois area, correct? I don't know if there are any questions or anything that anybody, somebody said to me, maybe you should see if there are any questions. But, oh yes, we have one in the back, so speak up loudly because my ears aren't really good by now. So. Becca, could you please stand up? Thank you, Becca. Oh, yes.
Does each venue get to choose what songs they perform on the violins?
That's a great question. So does each venue get to choose what songs they perform on the instruments? And by the way, Becca Easley has been quietly up there making sure that everything's good with the sound. So thank you for that, Becca. Sitting on our sound iPad and making sure there's no feedback. Thank you so much for doing that. I understand that that's true, yes. So Eileen's shaking her head. So I will say that we were told, like, do what you want. So we built our program here based on the things that we, have in our home environment. And I think, again, it's just amazing how talented and how much giftedness and blessedness we have here in this congregation. And so I cannot say enough about Beth Tikvah itself. So that if you go to a different program, there's still some programs coming up, I believe, in the Elgin area and various synagogues, I think, around the area. You will get something very different. You'll also hear different instruments and hear different stories because we don't all have the same instruments either. And then we were matched up with Dean and with Denise, and it's been just a wonderful, wonderful experience. So yeah, they're all different. Anything else? Oh yes, thank you. There in the front.
How many instruments in total are part of this collection at the moment, and are they still actively acquiring?
That's a good question.
I can answer.
Great, come on up, Denise or Eileen, if you want to come on up and answer. Come up, and we have like maybe time for this and maybe 2 more questions before we want to conclude. Thank you.
Well, at present, there are over 70 and maybe more violins that are traveling through the Chicago and Illinois. Oh, sorry. So over 70 and maybe even more that are traveling through our state. And interesting enough, as Eileen has said, they have to go back to Israel for 5 days, right, Eileen? Yeah. Then they come back, and they're being played until maybe September the 9th, maybe a little bit over that. It depends. There are still people that are hearing about our program and calling and saying, can I set up a date to have a violin or to come? Yeah.
There are, hi. Thank you for having me here today. This was really just a joy. I mean, you can see I have tears coming down my eyes. There are, in the collection itself in Israel, there are about 100. And the amazing thing is that they get calls all the time from people bringing in instruments. So, like Denise spoke about the man who was a Ritchie boy. I mean, when that violin came to Chicago and I opened up the case, and I don't play, I'm not a musician, but I opened up the case and it's in pieces. It's literally in pieces. But this man, he actually has a connection here in Chicago, and he's been in contact with me. And we'll consecrate that violin as part of the exhibition when we're at the Pritzker Military Museum and Library in August. But the exhibition is traveling throughout the state. So currently, in addition to being here today, we were at the Illinois Holocaust Museum. There's an exhibition at Sinai Congregation downtown. There's an exhibition at North Suburban Beth El. There's a bigger exhibition in Elgin. As we continue to move through the summer, They'll be in Aurora, they'll be in Joliet, they're going to be in Arlington Heights, they're going to be on exhibition in Peoria. They'll go to Springfield during the state fair. Really, our goal was to bring them far and wide. There's one JCC Chicago with programming everywhere, and so we were able to make that arrangement with the Weinsteins. But yeah, and we will have them through about September 15th. The violins go back for the 5 days because of what's called a carnet. It has something to do with taxes. And it does. And if they're here beyond a year, then the exhibition gets charged $2,000 a day. That's the cost of the fine. And so yes, we're going to collect them from everywhere at the end of June. They'll go back July 5th. They don't even have to be opened up. They don't even open up the boxes. They just have to touch ground in Israel. And then they're going to be put back on another cargo plane and sent back to us at JCC Chicago. So it's a crazy, right? It's a craziness. It's a craziness, but it's been a joy having the exhibition here in Chicago. And I've been at the J for 30 years. So you can tell, like, that's pretty much my career. And it's probably the most meaningful thing that I've done in my 30-year career. I am so lucky to be at JCC at this time and place. Any other questions?
Thank you, Eileen.
Okay.
Well, we have 2 more songs to play on the instruments. The last piece, we will again play the violin, and that this time it will be played by Amy Novick. But for now, I'd like to invite our choirs to come up and finish while I tell you about our last piece. And again, truly just thanks to everybody who made this possible, including the wonderful committee and Bonnie, the JCC, but really our wonderful musicians here at Beth Tikvah, who are all here doing this just out of the goodness of their hearts, sharing their talents and their skills with us. So as we opened our concert with that beautiful lullaby you heard our quartet play, to know that it was written by a woman named Ilse Weber. She was a young Czech mother and a well-known children's author. And she wrote this and many other songs to sweeten the lives of the children and elderly who came under her care in the Theresienstadt concentration camp, which is north of Prague. Some of you have heard this as Terezín. It's the same place. Terezín is the Czech name and Theresienstadt was the German name. She was interred there with her family from 1942 to 1944. Then they were deported, her husband and her young son. The couple had an older teenage son who had managed to escape and was living in Switzerland before the family was deported to Theresienstadt. And then the husband was deported to Auschwitz. And Ilse made an interesting decision. She decided to keep her family together, not knowing completely at that time yet what was waiting for them in Auschwitz. And she and her son went with their husband to Auschwitz. She and her son were sent to the gas chambers on the very first day. Sent to Auschwitz. And survivors recall that she sang to the children as she accompanied them into the gas chambers. So it is her full voice, this time with the words she wrote in German. That was the art language of the time. We will then give it a little bit in English as well. It's a lullaby, so it's just a lovely thing. And that is what we will now hear. And then we will conclude our program for today with a prayer that expresses our Jewish faith and eternal hope. And then we invite you all to join us for a reception lovingly given by our sisterhood and the members of Beth Tikvah congregation. Thank you very much for being here today.
This has been an honor and a blessing, and to have all of you here. And we hope that you've enjoyed the program. Thank you.
Lower the music stand a little bit. Thank you very much for being here today, and let's eat. We're Jews, let's eat. Some of us aren't. Those of you that aren't familiar, if we go to the back of the building, we have our social hall, the Chaviron, and you'll find wonderful things there to continue chatting and getting to know each other and enjoying the rest of this beautiful afternoon.
To a place you